Hello, Meoni here, and welcome to my tea time. This is where I'd sit down, I'd drink some tea, and I talk to you guys as if you were actually here live. Unfortunately, I can't live stream with my current internet. Hopefully that will be fixed in the future, like I keep saying every week. And every week I'm checking for upgrades, so, as soon as those are available and the area gets updated, you can be sure I'll be streaming as soon as possible. But until then, let's just take a moment and talk about all of this week's news, things that interest me in general. So the first thing I want to sort of touch on, because I know a lot of people probably will want to know my opinions on 14 related stuff, but let's cover the elephant in the room, which is the Final Fantasy VIII Remaster. Oh, this is a kettle of fish. Really, when people come to sort of addressing Final Fantasy VIII, they either love or hate the game. It's really the Marmite of the Final Fantasy numbered series. A lot of people complain and argue with each other of which their favourite is, but ultimately Final Fantasy VIII was my favourite. And I'm not afraid of saying that simply because it was something that did something different with the formula. Story-wise, it was convoluted, sometimes unnecessarily so, but at the same time, it was very rewarding and was ultimately one of the more technologically aware and advanced Final Fantasy games, and it was great to see that sort of Western leap as opposed to the traditional RPG, such as like Final Fantasy IX, for example, which was back to the grassroots, which is why they did that with 9, because of 8 being so technologically in your face and, dealing with time compression and other crazy mechanics like that. But Final Fantasy VIII was, to me, one of the groundbreaking games of the 90s, as well as Final Fantasy VII, obviously, and all of those PlayStation Final Fantasy games were just incredible, in my opinion. So how does the remaster hold up? Now I've been one of the most excited people for the remaster out of pretty much all of my group of friends, and whilst I'm incredibly happy to say that it's a really playable and enjoyable version of the game, there is a lot that still kind of leaves me to be desired about it. I'll have a proper video talking about the things I dislike about it and what I do like about it, but so far there are a few things that sort of stand out to me as a little bit unfortunate. I mean, let's put this into context. If you don't know the storyline behind Final Fantasy VIII, the big rumour, now this is a rumour because it's never been confirmed, was that Square Enix mislaid or misplaced or lost the actual original Final Fantasy VIII code. This is shortly after they created the PC port, the one that you currently have on Steam. That is the original PC port with all of the MIDI music, etc., which is, to be desired in itself. But this then, the Final Fantasy VIII Remaster, is basically a reverse engineering of that same port, along with some graphical changes and some new sprites and overlays here and there. You can still see the cracks emerging from the original version, but it is a working version of Final Fantasy VIII that they've ported to obviously the Nintendo Switch, to PC again, and of course PlayStation. So yeah, in that regard, it's a fantastic opportunity to get more people to play an absolute classic, and a lot of people probably missed it. I always get comments lately of, oh, I've never played Final Fantasy VIII, and it just blows my mind. And a lot of those people either didn't play it because of, other people saying it was bad, or they just didn't have the time. Back in 1999, wasn't it? Something like that. And it's definitely worth playing through. Now, would I recommend this version over the original PC version? Absolutely. Would I recommend the remaster to replace the original PlayStation version? Absolutely not. There's nothing that can replace the original PlayStation version, the polish, everything about that version on the multiple discs was just absolute heaven, and you'll never replace that experience. And in many ways, it was better than the remaster. But where the remaster actually trumps all of that is with the new models for the characters. That's really the only major significant difference for me personally. Like the ability to see Squall and Renoa in that ballroom scene, and the old meme of "you're the cutest guy here, do you want to dance?" and he doesn't actually look like a cardboard box with eyes poked through it. that's pretty good to see. But in general, is it enough to make you throw away your PlayStation discs? Absolutely not. However, it is enough to recommend for anybody who doesn't have a PlayStation or the time to go and play the original PlayStation version with the discs. This allows people to download it on their PS4 or their Switch or whatever, and especially with the Switch as well, playing it on the Move has just made so many games more accessible to more people, and I honestly think Final Fantasy VIII was sorely missed from the legacy that is all of the other games that have had the same treatment. There are a few niggles here and there, like sometimes, as I say before, you can see through the cracks and you see the original models underneath some of the newer models that they've placed over the top, such as Headmaster Sid. There's a specific scene I don't have the footage of right now, but I'll get it for you in the upcoming video, where essentially for a split second he gets replaced, and it was a little bit jarring to see, let's put it that way. But in general, it's a fantastic modern rendition, probably the best we're ever going to get, considering if those rumours are indeed true, then obviously .emu has worked tirelessly to reverse engineer a PC port, and they've done a fairly good job. So let's go back onto Final Fantasy XIV related stuff, and really we have to talk about patch 5.1 and all of the hype that surrounds that patch. Now let's just break down roughly what we've had from rumours and from sort of off discussions with Yoshi P and indeed at live letters, and go through what exactly is planned for 5.1 and how ambitious exactly this is already sounding. So we have Dark Apocalypse Alliance Raid Part 1. Okay, that's doable, so the new 24-man raid with a new gear and storyline related to that first part. Then it was also mentioned in 5.1 we would see New Game Plus, which is going back and playing through the old games from A Realm Reborn, so 2.0 stuff, all the way through Heavensward, all the way through Stormblood, and indeed up to Shadowbringers content, at the same time as keeping your current progression on the most recent content. So that's all kinds of hype. We haven't really had any information about it though, or any incentives for people who perhaps don't want to do that. I'm still waiting for them to say, here you go, here's some glamour or some amazing stuff, a little minion or something that you can get by completing New Game Plus. If they don't do that, and it is literally just me experiencing the game again with my current character, I might as well have just created a brand new character, in my opinion. But again, we have to wait and see, because they really haven't given any information on that, and hopefully next week in the next live letter they do. So we've got Alliance Raid Part 1, New Game Plus, what else? Oh yeah, there was the PvP, new PvP season, new PvP rewards, and a new frontline mode that they said was going to be close to the Siege or Shatter, that sort of thing. We don't really have any information on that either, so we're awaiting that. So a new PvP mode as well. We also have Hildebrand, although that's likely to be like 5.1.5 or something. They usually reserve that for the week after the major patch comes out. So that's kind of understandable, but that's in the 5.1 arc is the new Hildebrand storyline, and I would hope a new trial, but that's very ambitious. And then they say significant battle changes and balancing. So we have the complete overhaul that was supposedly going to be coming for Ninja, Samurai, and Summoner, and some of the others. And they're also going to be looking at Scholar, I would imagine, in that. So we have the balancing for them to do. We have potentially a new trial, because obviously it was mentioned that there would be an extreme mode eventually of the 5.0 ending battle, the Dying Grasp, which is all kinds of hype, which will probably have its own set of weapons or something like that. I think it was that with Shinryu, wasn't it? Something like that. But that's another thing for them to put into the game. Then they mentioned something about Ishgard restoration and obviously the housing. So I don't know if that'll be in 5.1. That'll probably be pushed back. We also have guaranteed is a new main storyline progression, sort of a little bit. It probably won't be a massive section of storyline for the MSQ. It will probably be like, here you go, this is what's going to be happening, and this is like the tie-in to the next patch, that sort of thing. So maybe like 2 to 3 quests or something like that. I doubt there'll be much to that. Possibly even one of those like solo trials where you play as a character. I would love to play as Estinian, for example, chasing after the Black Rose in the Garlean capital. That would be pretty epic, so hopefully we get something like that. And it was even a mention of the next Blue Mage level cap up to level 60 and new Blue Mage specific content scheduled for 5.1. That's a little bit ambitious, considering the Blue Mage stuff didn't really go down well last time. So increasing 10 levels to level 60 cap with new Blue Mage specific content, well, we'll have to wait and see what they have up their sleeve. But, you know, obviously we're not holding our breath for that. It might be just as long-lived as the level 50 stuff. But, you know, I'm waiting to be surprised pleasantly. But that's another piece of content that was scheduled for 5.1. And then they say possibly the first of the new Beast Tribe hubs and quest lines. So that's a new Beast Tribe as well, with all the rewards and all of that stuff. So that's a lot of stuff so far. Then they also mentioned at 1.5.1 would feature new Gold Saucer stuff. I'm not sure if they meant rewards or actual activities. Again, that's more stuff that's going to be coming into the game, presumably in 5.1. And then there's a question of when the next Ultimate is going to be coming out, or any information on that. Because historically we usually get information about that this sort of time. And, you know, it can't really be too much further into the year before we start seeing information about that. Not necessarily for 5.1, but it's usually that sort of information we get. So the next live letter, even though half of it has been taken up by the guest creators with Yoko Taro, etc., actually, you know, staying on the podcast and talking about Dark Apocalypse, there's no wonder they've really split the 5.1 live letter into two separate live letters, is there? Because there's so much to talk about, and I presume there's a lot more to talk about past what we've got bullet pointed here. It's going to be one hell of a patch, and I keep saying that every time people ask what exactly is in 5.1, and I'm like, well, we don't know, but this is what they say might be in 5.1. If you can even imagine for a moment that, you know, other games are struggling for content every month. You know, you play WoW and you're waiting forever for something, and then Final Fantasy XIV comes along and is like 20 new things to do. I mean, they might not be all everyone's cup of tea, right? Not everyone's going to do every piece of content, unless you're people like me, where you will try everything out at least once and tell people if you like it or not. But there's a lot of content on the table for a lot of different people. And yeah, we have to wait and see what's really going to be coming with 5.1, but that's all kinds of hype. And hopefully we get a taste of that next live letter, even though I would imagine a lot of that information is going to be taken up by Dark Apocalypse, which again isn't really a bad thing considering we know nothing about that either. And hopefully they're well on the way to releasing that, because because Nier Automata related raid content and gear related to 2B, for example, that sort of stuff. I would love that. I would absolutely adore that. So yeah, 5.1 is a big point of discussion at the moment, and indeed it will be for the next couple of weeks until we really know what's coming out, but I'm sure there'll be quite a few surprises. So the last topic I really want to talk about today is the idea of making my own podcast. This is something that's been on the cards possibly for the last couple of years. I've had this sort of rotating around in my head of how to do it, and ultimately it comes down to not being able to do it live. Now, at first, I put it off because of that reason, but then I remembered that the majority of the good podcasts are actually edited up, and, you know, these things are posted on places anyway. They're not always getting the most traffic that they can when they first go out live, because not everyone is going to be there at that specific time. So I'm more encouraged by my community. The Patreon members who are on my Discord at the moment have encouraged me to try out new things. And in specific, Callie Rush, who's a Twitch streamer, has given me the final push I think I needed to maybe look into it a bit further. So really, I would like to ask you guys what you would want from another podcast. Are Final Fantasy XIV related podcasts actually any good? Do you actually watch them? Is it something that you would be interested from this channel? I mean, the sort of guests I would have on, probably not that many guests. If I'm honest with you, I don't have that much reach like a lot of other YouTubers, but at the same time, I'd actually like to talk to new and upcoming people rather than I would more established people in Final Fantasy XIV, perhaps even people who have no content creation whatsoever, but organize some of the community events for the game and servers that we play on. In general, it would be a PG-rated sort of experience for sure. So let me know what you think about that. Let me know if you have any ideas for that. If you think it's a terrible idea, let me know now. If the idea of listening to me for more than an hour is painful, then you know, let me know. I'd try and take a little bit of a spin on it. You know, it would take a lot of time and investment that possibly would get taken out of other projects. If it's something that people want, then I'm all but ready to do it. Honestly, it's not particularly difficult to sort of arrange times to talk with people. It's just the actual recording of it and then editing it and uploading it that's going to take all of the time. But if it's something that people want, I'll look into it further. Ultimately, I'd just like to say as a last few messages that it's been fantastic, the journey so far on YouTube. It's continuing to be a fantastic journey that's just growing exponentially. I'm getting a lot more opportunities, as you've seen with Square Enix putting me in their partnership program, and they give me a few games for free here and there for me to sort of look at and give my opinions on. And when you love Square Enix's games and RPGs in general as much as I do, it's obviously quite heavenly to be able to just, you know, have access to something and try it out. Even if something is complete garbage, at least you have the opportunity to say that it's garbage and say that you've played it. And that's something that really is quite important. So yeah, anyway, thank you kindly for watching this video. If you have any ideas or comments or suggestions, I'll take them on board and I will address them next week in the next Tea Time with Meoni. I apologize, this was supposed to be on Monday, but again, I've been quite busy this week and there's been a few other issues externally which I've had to deal with, unfortunately. So hopefully next week we'll be back to the usual schedule and I'll try and get out more videos with better quality. I know we've got a few machinimations coming up and a few special surprises next week, so stay tuned for that. So once again, thank you for watching and I'll see you all next time.